Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Fistful of Dice. My name is Matt, and tonight we are going to be kicking off a Mecha Hack mini-campaign entitled Scrappers. This first session is called Shattered Eclipse, and I am joined by four awesome players. You can see them in the windows below me. Baron, Karen, Lloyd, and Philip. We're going to be meeting their pilots and their mechs here very shortly. Before we begin, I do want to say that if you're watching this and you think that the Mecha Hack looks cool and it's something that you want to check out, there are links down in the description to find the Mecha Hack on absolutetabletop.com as well as Drive-Thru RPG. The PDF's super cheap. It might actually still be on sale on Drive-Thru RPG for like $4. I don't know, but definitely go check it out. So we're just going to roll right into it here. The crew of the salvage hauler called the Gyre is buzzing. You've all been woken up in the middle of the night to gather in the ready room. It has been months since you've had a good haul, weeks since you've had a payday, days since you've had a hot shower. The coffee is on its third or fourth filtration. Times are desperate, and there are troubling rumors from the edges of the system called Lodestar Alpha. Rumblings of war and stranger things still. But today there's some excitement in the air. You four serve aboard the Gyre as salvagers. A mech team specialized in disassembling and taking parts off of downed dreadnoughts floating on the fringes of Lodestar Alpha. You operate under the radar of the Neo Dominion, who frown upon you chopping off chunks of their ships. The ship that you serve on here is called the Condor. It's a small freighter currently docked in the hangar of the Gyre. It's not much to look at, but it's gotten you out of scrapes quite a few times. Galvin Widower, you're the commander of this team. As you enter the ready room, this sort of amphitheater-style chamber near the lower bow of this giant ship, you see that there are already dozens here assembling. Some of them salvage teams, others support personnel. There's even a few droids milling around. Everyone's cradling cups of tepid coffee. They look tired, disheveled, bleary-eyed, but excited, anxious to find out what has woken you all up and called you into the ready room. Galvin, who do you see first in your team as you enter the ready room?
Gotta find the mute button. Okay, Galvin Widower, to his crew, more likely to be called Teddy out of his mech. He is a kind of older looking guy, kind of a handlebar mustache, kind of balding a bit, but longer in the back. Not quite a mullet, but we're on the border here. I have every reason to believe that I see our engineer, Kraken. All right. You heard you heard it. How are we looking?
Silas, who pilots Kraken Omega, would give you a look of like, what do you think? Same as always. Same old business. Nothing works. Everything's broken. I don't get paid enough for this. I don't get paid anything for this. And he's like trying to like stir the grounds in what is, generously called coffee. He's like looking at it like it's tea leaves before he like it's a shot. Yeah, it'll be okay.
Who enters next on this team?
Singa will go ahead and enter, rubbing her eyes, still wearing her like sleeping wear, just dirty pants and a dirty tank top. What's all this noise about, Commander?
Seems like the getting's good for whatever's to be gotten.
Finally.
Yeah, you could say that again.
Well, what are we doing here? Who are we waiting for?
Well, to be honest, you could probably suit up. That would help.
Roger that.
Quickly.
The fourth and final member of the team is the last to enter, filtering in with the stragglers coming in, finding their seats. It's so crowded in here. The entire crew of the Geyer has been assembled to the point where there's not even enough seats, and there are people that are starting to sort of stand near the back of the room, locking themselves to the deck with their mag boots as the gravity in here is not quite full. And so the final member, Viper Midnight, enters. Viper, go ahead and describe your pilot and how you greet your team.
So Viper would come in. She's fairly tall for a woman and kind of bulky as well. She's always sweaty at this point. She was just working out at the gym, getting ready for, keeping in shape, that kind of thing. She's got very short cropped auburn hair, which is kind of all over the place. It's just kind of like a little rat's nest sitting on top of her head. And she just kind of strolls on in. See, there's no real room to sit down anymore, and kind of stands behind Singa, and locks her mag boots in and says, "Yeah, so kind of excitement's got us all here today."
And as you ask that, and Crimson Mammoth, as you're leaving to go suit up, a quiet falls over the room, this hush as the chatter kind of dies down, and you see the captain of the Geyer, this middle-aged woman, Rhea Carvin. She drifts down through the low gravity, sort of in a controlled fall, her mag boots locking her to the deck as she enters the ready room from this ladder that leads up into the bridge. She settles onto the deck and makes for the center of the room, where there's a big circular holocron, this sort of thing that displays holographic images in the center of the room. And she pulls out a data pad and sort of stands at the center of the room and sort of does that thing that teachers do sometimes, where they don't say be quiet, but they just stand there patiently waiting for everyone to quiet down. And as she's sort of waiting for the last of the chatter to die down, her first mate, this gigantic man with cybernetic legs named Brutus, he stands up and says, "Listen up!" The last of the chatter dies down. Captain Carvin steps forward, thumbs a few things on her data pad, and then addresses the room. "Good morning, everyone. I know you likely didn't get the sleep that you wanted, and I know the coffee is lukewarm and burnt. But wake the hell up, because it's Christmas morning. I'm not going to waste your time. We have a lot of work to do. Direct your eyes to the holocron, if you would." She thumbs a few more things on her data pad, and the holocron flickers to life, and this spectral diagram of a gigantic dreadnought appears. This ship is gigantic, bristling with weapons, plated with armor. You see hangars lining the sides of this ship, and as it sort of begins to slowly rotate, sort of flickering in and out of this aged holographic tech, you see that there are banners draped across it with the emblem of the Neo Dominion. There's kind of some excited murmuring as this ship appears and begins rotating. Carvin continues. "What you see here is the Neo Dreadnought Eclipse. It's one of the largest in the Dominion fleet, one of the largest ever built, actually. 500 meters long, crew of 8,000, 40 kinetic point defense turrets, a dozen missile bays, a pair of ion cannons." One of the jokers in the room says, "And a partridge in a pear tree." There's kind of laughter, and Brutus kind of glares at everyone and they quiet down. Carvin says, and 2 CK-90 cruiser killer cannons. Not to mention a full legion of Neo Mecha, 4 dropships, 30 gunships, and 56 interceptors. Simply put, it's a floating fortress. The hologram continues swiveling, sort of panning in on the different things that she's indicating. You all note with interest the CK-90 cruiser killers, these railgun weapons designed specifically to drop cruisers out of the sky. Each of these cannons alone is probably worth more than the Geyer and every mecha on board. Sometime after 2300 yesterday, this happened. The holo transitions and shows a long stretch of floating wreckage. The room erupts into conversation. Brutus again shuts it down. Now, we're not sure how. Frankly, we don't care. What's important to us right now is that the largest dreadnought ever built is currently in about 1,000 little pieces, just waiting to be picked up. And we're the closest transponder signal, as far as we know. Nearest reported Neo fleet is 8 hours out, so we need to move fast. In the interest of full transparency, here's the part we can't quite figure out. The wreckage of the Eclipse is spread across roughly 2 million kilometers of open space. Now, it could just be that the Neos are mucking around with new fulcrum tech, and the Eclipse's reactors blew mid-jump, but we can't be sure exactly, so we've got to be quick and quiet about this. We have a significant lead on any Neos trying to intercept, so we're obviously not going to pass up this chance. Given the sheer spread of the wreckage, the Geyer will be making 3 separate fulcrum jumps to drop away teams. Here, here, and here, and these little blips sort of bloop, 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 appear across the wreckage. Currently, the pieces are hurtling through space at a few hundred kilometers per hour, so you'll need to dock with grapplers to slow these pieces down to salvage. We'll have an hour to recharge our reactors after these jumps, and then we will jump back in reverse order to pick up the teams. Comms delay at these distances is between 30 and 45 seconds, so away teams, you will be solo for the most part. Watch your backs, and use your Twitch drives at the first sign of Neos. We're not willing to get in a fight over this. Brutus has your assignments. The large man steps up on his cybernetic legs and begins handing out assignments. Albatross, you'll be the first drop here. Scouts report a huge cache of beryllium batteries, so handle with care. Clear? Another team across the room, they all kind of nod. Solar, we've got you dumped here at the second drop point. This looks like an intact quick drop pod, so secure as many mecha you can in time. Titan and Striker chassis prioritized. Heard? Another team nods. Finally, Condor. Galvin, listen up. The aft section of the Eclipse is mostly intact, and it looks like both CK-90 cannons survived. The hologram zooms in on these 2 cannons. The Condor is the only freighter we have large enough to tow both cannons, so you'll need to cut them loose and prep them for towing. Clear?
The just confirmation of a head nod is what I would imagine the crew gives.
All right, then. Everyone else, support personnel, stand by. We need to be awake, alert, and ready to bug out at the first sign of Neos. Everyone clear? Everyone sort of nods. Carvin sort of nods to Brutus, thanking him, and then she steps back up. Listen, everyone, it's been a slog these last few months, I know. Many of you have gone without a payday, without sleep, without meals, without hot showers. This here is our chance to get ahead and pick up some momentum. With this haul, we could cover the overhead on the Geyer for 5 years. Easy. It means paydays for everyone. It means better equipment. It means upgrades across the board. So let's do this thing right. Right then. Dismissed. Form up. We jump in 10.
Chee-hoo! Let's see what Santa brought us.
There are similar sort of whoops and hollers throughout the ready room as everyone stands up and gets ready. And Galvin, one of the other kind of commanders sort of brushes your shoulder and says, "Good luck cutting those cannons loose." And sort of like continues walking.
We got the best job, Commander, by a mile. If we bring these things home, there are definitely some parts here and there that I can, and he'll just like touch his nose briefly, so we can get a little extra payday.
Like gripping your, not like aggressively, but like pulling you close, like around the shoulder. God damn it, Silas! I knew keeping the Condor together was the best move we could have fucking made. Did you hear that? Only one that could pull both those cannons. They can't even pull one.
So everyone sort of migrates to their stations. All the support personnel sort of spreading out throughout the ship, taking up their stations, and all the salvage crews head towards the hangar. There are like 4 or 5 freighters stored in the hangar and a bunch of mecha chassis. You guys see the Condor sort of ready to go, stationed near the end of the hangar. And there are a few beetles. These sort of like, they're like small mechs. They're like almost human size, and they walk around on 4 legs, and they're magnetically walking around the ceilings and the walls of the hangar, sort of making quick repairs and getting everything ready to go, loading mechs up into the freighters. The Condor, it sort of has a small sort of cockpit section where you all sort of live and sleep, and it's, cramped quarters. And then it has 2 huge sort of cargo containers basically towed behind it. The first one is a quick drop pod for your mechs. So you basically get in the mechs, the bottom opens out, and the mechs drop out the bottom. And the second one is for hauling cargo. And like Carvin said, the only one big enough to haul 2 CK-90 cannons, because they're massive. So the Condor is sitting there, your mechs are already loaded up, and you're able to sort of get in and make any last minute checks. Now you guys are not alone on the Condor. You have a droid that serves as your deckhand. I'd like one of you to tell me what this droid's name is.
How do you feel about Clank?
Clank. I love it. What's Clank's deal? What is his he's a bit eccentric. Why would you say that he's a little eccentric?
I feel like most droids are like on wheels or rollers. He's like, it's not a coordinated spider, more like a crab, I would imagine. He maybe even has to walk sideways. He is very apt to do anything looking at it forward, but just the design of his legs, he can't walk straight.
He was like made to be a bartending like unit.
Oh,
yes.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like walk up and down, and then we like stole him at some stage and repurposed him.
Perfect. So he's on the outside of the Condor, sort of like moving sideways across it, sort of like vertically on a space, and he's doing like the Han Solo and Empire Strikes Back, like, no, that one goes there, this one goes here, like talking to the beetle droids that are walking around. And then as he sees you approach, he goes, "Oh, hey guys, Condor's ready to go."
Excellent, Clank. Impeccable work.
I do what I can. And he'll sort of disappear into one of the like top hatches to enter. How would you guys like to prep? You have about 10 minutes. Any sort of last minute things you'd like to do to the Condor, the mechs, anything like that?
I'll like list off this list of repairs that I made since the last time. It's all just like jargon. Like depolarized the proton batteries, and I compensated for the static discharge, but whatever, all this like nonsense, which is my usual sort of like, I'm getting here, here's the information that none of you are going to listen to since the last time we went anywhere.
Yeah, and the Condor has it's pretty meager. It relies on its armor to get it out of trouble, but it does have 2 small turrets just in case, sort of on the top side and the bottom side, and then it has what's called a twitch drive, which is basically it's a FTL drive that basically just shoots at a short distance away. It's not made for any sort of like distance traveling. It's just like a emergency get out of trouble quick sort of drive. In order to go any greater distance than that, you have to be aboard the Gyre and use their bigger reactors and their bigger drive. So those are sort of the only sort of like noteworthy things about it. Other than that, it's just a like good solid sort of ship that has served you well over the years. Once you get aboard, you see your worn, sort of duct taped together seats on the bridge. Clank is sort of moving about, sort of moving sideways in his odd but endearing way, making last minute checks, plugging in some cables, and he probably would approach you, Kraken Omega. You probably work with Clank more than anybody else, being the engineer, and he sort of goes over the list with you, does the checks, and says, the Twitch drive was acting up a little bit earlier, having some weird energy output, but I seem to have calibrated it. Shouldn't be an issue.
All right. I'll check it. I know that Clank is good at this, but he's not as good as me.
Yeah.
And so basically that's like our shorthand for him saying, I think I fixed it, but can you check?
You should probably double check it. Yeah, exactly.
So I have just sat down in my chair and taken out a cigar, and then he'll say that, and I'll put the cigar back in the pocket and stand up immediately and go and check.
Which one of you flies the Condor? Which one of you sort of sits in the seat to fly this thing?
I'll take that one on.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So your seat is sort of front and center. It's pretty similar to piloting a mech. It's actually a little bit simpler. You just sort of point it and it goes in that direction. But you've gotten pretty good at flying this thing over the years, navigating it through debris, putting it through asteroid fields, that sort of thing. So you feel pretty comfortable behind the yokes of this thing. Pretty soon the hangar sort of clears. Everyone is aboard. Their freighter's ready to go. You see the last of the beetles scuttling away and sort of clamping themselves to the deck to get ready for some jumps. You're going to make 3 jumps in quick succession. A voice comes over the comm. You recognize it as Brutus, and he says, "All right, we're getting ready to make the first jump. Everyone buckle up, strap in, and make sure everything's bolted down." There's sort of a low, barely perceptible hum that begins in the lowest regions of the ship as the reactors begin spinning up. And you all kind of everything kind of starts vibrating, and maybe there's some junk on the dash of the ship that's kind of rattling around and starting to slide off. All right, we're making the first jump in 5, 4, 3. His voice gets weird as the engines spin up and there's a strange sort of blue light that overtakes everything, and then you just feel yourself hurtling through space, and it's over in an instant. All of you have done this hundreds of times before, but you're always a little bit nauseous afterwards. Human beings are not really meant to move like that, and so as the jump completes, you're all left a little bit dizzy and shaken. The first freighter, the Albatross, immediately sort of rockets out of the hangar. You see outside of the hangar wreckage, just fields of it. The entire starfield is filled with wreckage, and it's all just hurtling past at hundreds of kilometers an hour. Just you feel it plinging off the plating of the gyre, bouncing off the shields, and then as quickly as you arrived, the ship is jumping again. You hear the engines again. Woo, 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 woo. You make a second jump. Again, you're thousands of kilometers, hundreds of thousands of kilometers away from the first location. The second freighter, the Solar, sort of jets out of the hangar. And then you're jumping a third time. At this point, you're probably, if not puking, you're probably holding it back a little bit. The third and final jump, and you hear over your comms, "Condor, go, go, go!" And what I'll need from you, Viper Midnight, is a mobility test, please.
Maybe I wasn't a good one to take. Oh, I rolled a 1.
Hey, there you go. That's good in this game. So go ahead and describe to me, if you would, Karen, how you expertly disembark the gyre and maneuver it directly into the path of the aft section of the Eclipse that is now hurtling towards you at hundreds of kilometers an hour.
Yeah, so Kat's been flicking on all the instruments, getting everything all primed and ready while the jumps are going. And after this third jump, well, everybody else is kind of reeling from the nausea. She's got like this iron stomach and she's just not phased at all. And as soon as that jump is done, she punches and is like, and off we go. And she pulls back on the stick and out they soar through the opening. And as soon as they leave the gyre, she immediately kind of banks to the right, finds the aft section and just kind of zooms up right close to it and kind of is now going parallel along where it is.
Perfect. Yeah, you're with that roll, you're able to not only get alongside of it, but you match its speed. So effectively, it doesn't even look like it's moving anymore, even though you're both just hurtling through space at just insane speeds. So you have perfectly matched your speed with that of the aft section of the ship. You see that this chunk of the Eclipse is bigger than the gyre. It's just this massive piece of just slag sort of shrapnel. You see the metal is just melted. You've never really seen anything like this. You're not even sure at a glance like what happened to this ship. It looks like it was just ripped apart from the inside out, and this piece is just careening through space. You actually also managed to, it's not, stationary, it's rotating, it's spinning, and you match the thing's spin. So if you look out the window, the starfield is just careening in sort of this circle outside the window, but you feel like you're motionless because you're just perfectly in sync with this hurtling piece of wreckage. Clank sort of speaks up. Synced perfectly. Ready for grapplers. Do we want to attach or try and slow this thing down first?
Can I make a systems check to figure out which one of those makes more sense?
Yeah, go for it.
Rather actually, which one will give us the most time? Because I'm not really worried about danger. I'm worried about getting the money.
Yeah.
That's 9, definite success.
So you think that the quickest way would probably be to just grapple onto this thing and go over with your mechs. But you also know that with this thing flying through space at the speed and the spin that it has, that the G's are going to be really weird in there, and you guys are going to have to compensate for everything that you're doing while inside the wreckage. And so you're actually thinking that it might be worth it to try and basically land and use the engines of the Condor to try and slow this thing down and stabilize it so it's not spinning so wildly.
Okay, I'll let them know that basically. We can land, but it's going to be Puke City.
Can I get a numbers check? I'm sure Clank is like, you get a 3.33 repeating, of course. All right, Viper. You heard Kraken. Let's try and slow her down.
So if you're going to try and do that, what I'll need from you, Viper, is either a system or a mobility check to basically maneuver the ship around and land on this piece of wreckage. You can go ahead and do so with advantage since you got yourself synced up perfectly with it.
Beautiful. I think I'm going to go with a system check because right now we're just trying to land in the best spot.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh. So I got a 15 and a 14, which are both under my 16, so that's perfect.
Great. So you managed to maneuver the Condor and basically use the sort of retro thrusters to land yourself safely on the spinning, careening piece of wreckage. And using these retro thrusters and the engines, you sort of fire them in a way where you're able to stop the spin. You sort of get it stabilized. It's still drifting through space, but you slow it down and get it to stop spinning. You all see the starfield outside the windshield of the Condor sort of settle into a more lazy sort of circle. It's not such a like crazy sort of woo, 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 rushing past. You definitely feel like it's a little bit more stable. Clank says, another successful landing. Mechs are ready to drop whenever you are. I'll keep an eye on the bridge.
Mammoth, you ready? You're taking the helm down there.
Finally, let's suit up.
So the four of you move back through this sort of central corridor, this little like neck that connects the two cargo containers of the Condor, and you all see in this sort of darkened makeshift hangar the four mechs sort of standing stoically, these massive metal shapes sort of barely outlined in sort of the dim flickering fluorescence on the ceiling. What I'd like each of you to do, starting with Baron and working our way towards the right, is describe what your mechs look like and sort of what their deal is.
So the Galvin Widower is aesthetically ugly. It is a patchwork monstrosity of the best salvage materials we've been able to find and outfit ourselves with over the last couple years. The most kind of unique feature of the Galvin Widower is its left arm, which houses its welding beam. It also has these kind of extra appendages. You see, like the arm itself functions, and it can also kind of separate into a few kind of pieces away from the welding beam that, given the auxiliary design of my chassis, this allows me to interlock with other reactors, and this channels from the reactor in my mech, allowing me to reinforce the capabilities of my my team.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's worth noting that Baron is actually playtesting a new chassis that I was working on. So it's janky as hell, so we'll see how it works. All right, Karen, what does your mech look like?
So Viper Midnight is not much better than the Galvin Widower. This thing is dented. It's pieced together from all sorts of older tech. But Kat, her pilot, has tried to do something to beautify it. And every time they go on a successful salvage mission, she tattoos another design on it. So this thing is colorful. It's got all sorts of designs all over its arms, its legs, its torso. It's quite covered. So that just shows how much these guys actually go out and salvage as a team together. Yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Very cool. Awesome. Lloyd, what about your mech?
Kraken Omega is really big. It's really, really big. It's like much bigger than the other mechs. And the name comes, it's got 4 legs. Very, very sturdy. It's got these 2 big arms for like heavy lifting, but it's got 2 smaller arms for like fine manipulation and repairs. And on the outside, like it's just cobbled together, but like maybe a little bit more delicately than the others because it's his mech and he does most of the cobbling. Inside, though, it's just chaos. He's like decorated the hell out of it. He's got like metal skulls and a bunch of the levers, and he's got like an analog tape player, which he uses to like play music as loudly as possible. So every time you communicate with him, there's just always going to be like this awful static because he's blaring some kind of music. And yeah, inside it's all just like pinups and like porno mags and like all sorts of ridiculous awfulness.
Overflowing ashtrays and empty beer cans.
Oh yeah. Yep, there's like a bunch of things that are like not designed for Ash, but he uses them for it anyway. And the inside is constantly smoky.
There's like a bunch of like futuristic like fast food wrappers and like cups like rolling around in the like behind the pilot's seat. Awesome. All right, and Philip, what does your mech look like?
So Crimson Mammoth is all shoulders and arms, kind of tiny waist with tiny legs, and 2 giant rusty metal tusks coming out. And when Crimson Mammoth goes to strike, he gets down on all 4s and then kind of springs back and then just charges with those rusty metal tusks. And Singa will laugh over and look at Kat. Kat, what do you think it is that Kraken Omega's compensating for?
Well, that ain't no secret there. We all know what he's compensating for.
What?
Now, we all know he looks like he smells.
But he's darn good with that torch, so that's why we keep him around.
Over the comms, so you guys all take your seats. The cockpits sort of close around you, pressurized. You hear the sort of hum of your reactors as your mechs wake up. Much like you were a few hours ago, very tired and low on energy, but ready to make some credits. Over the comms, you hear Clank. You ready to drop? All right. Hold on. There's a... And the doors at the bottom of this pod sort of swing open. The sort of cables holding the shoulders of your mechs let loose, and all of you drop out as all of the air that was in the hangar rushes out, pulling you out with it, and you all sort of touch down on, for lack of a better scale, moon-sized piece of wreckage. You just sort of touch down, and there's a very distinct change in the sound as no air outside of the mech. All you can hear is just what's inside of the cockpit of the mech, this pressurized sort of tiny compartment. Outside of the mech, you hear nothing. It's silence. You see the stars wheeling as you essentially stand on what is this thing hurtling through space. The Condor docked beside you. Clank over the comm says, good luck. I'll be keeping an eye on things. I'll let you know if there's any trouble.
Roger that, Clank. Keep those sensors up.
Take care of our baby for us. We'll be back.
Keeping the guns and the engines preheated. Now, Galvin, as the commander, you sort of are making the calls here, but you know that there's a few different ways you can go about this. You can either walk around the hull of this thing scanning for openings that you can fit the mechs through, or you can try to cut through with your welder beams, or you could try and find a hangar that you could hack open with systems.
Kraken, did you happen to get a scan of this big bastard before we landed? Do we have any idea where we are, or are we just in the ass of this thing?
Of course I did. He lies and makes a quick scan now.
Go ahead and give me a systems test if you would, Lloyd.
Success. It's 12.
So you scan the wreckage. You're basically on the underside of the aft third of the Eclipse. It's probably the largest piece of the wreckage. You know that there is with your scans, you can see that there is a hangar, maybe like half a click up the side of the ship, that you can get to fairly easily. You know that the hull is really thick and would probably take a long time to cut through, but you'd be able to just make your opening as close to the Condor as possible. So it's kind of 6 to 1, half dozen to the other. You also detect there is still power running through this thing, and you're a little bit concerned about automated defenses if there's anything still active on the ship.
Knowing what I guess is that defenses would be around doors and things like that, less so if we hack through a wall, cut through a wall. And also being closer to the Condor seems like a good call just in case. So I'll recommend that. Let's just cut through, sir.
Yeah. I'm not can't risk the Condor getting shot at. Go ahead. Start her up. I'm gonna do a quick systems diagnostic. I think Clank calibrated something wrong.
Don't hurt yourself, sir.
So whoever is gonna cut through with welding beams, I need some power tests from everyone.
Single will definitely be helping cut through.
Not looking so hot on my end. We got a 19/10.
I got it a success.
I got equal to my score. So is that a
That is a failure.
failure?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just succeeded.
So as you guys are sort of cutting through, you sort of start working through this hull with your welding beams. It's thick armor plating. This is like good Neo-Dominion steel. It's taking minutes to cut through, but you know it'll be worth it now that you have a nice quick exit right out to the Condor. But anyone who failed, as you're cutting through and you get through sort of the first layer of the hull, you find the sort of the veins of the ship, for lack of a better word, these sort of power lines and pipes and conduits running through the ship. And as you're sort of cutting through, anyone who failed, you cut through one of the pipes and there's sort of an arc of energy that sort of runs up your mech. And I need you guys to make reactor rolls if you failed.
I passed.
Okay.
Basically, if you roll a 1 or a 6.
1 or a 2 is a failure.
Okay, yeah, I passed.
Okay, cool. So yeah, there's this sort of like energy sort of arcs through, and you get a little wheat sort of klaxon as your reactor sort of begins sort of overheating under the burden of this additional power, but it manages to sort of vent some coolant, cool itself down. Clank over the comm says, "Hey, watch it! Careful with those power lines."
Sorry, Clank. It was a surprise and a shock for me, too.
After a few minutes, though, you manage to cut through and you make a hole big enough to fit the biggest of you, which would probably be Kraken Omega, through into the innards of the ship. The sort of circular hole, the hole sort of drifts away, and you push the plating away from the ship, and you see it just just disappear as the speed that you're moving. This piece of steel just sort of disappears behind you as it hurtles back.
I'll be sure to go in first since I've got the toughest mech, so I'll like cut a hole big enough for me and then push my way through.
You find yourself sort of in the bowels of the ship. It's not really a place where there's any sort of like corridors or hallways or anything. It's sort of the engines, the power, the reactors of the ship. You find yourself sort of in the inner workings of this thing. Everything is just pristine, well, as pristine as possible. It's just a state-of-the-art ship, and it's almost difficult. You really have to keep your eye on the prize here and know that you're sort of under a time crunch to get these cannons loose, because you already see like, ooh, I know. You just see like credit signs, like I know how much that reactor's worth. I know how much that coolant system's worth. Oh, that's a weapon targeting system. I know how much that's worth. But you know those cannons are really the prize.
All right, everyone, get your jaws off the floor. You know what we're here for. Cannons. Get to the cannons. And stay close. We don't know what may or may not be here, at least.
So if you guys would like to sort of locate the cannon and find the easiest and quickest path to get there, I'd like a system test from whoever would like to do that.
I've made every system test so far, so if someone else wants to do it.
I'll do it. 13 over 16, so success.
It's pretty easy to find it. It's the biggest power source there is. You know that each CK90 essentially has its own reactor that is like 4 times the capacity of the reactor that's in your mechs. It's just an insane amount of energy. And so you sort of dial in and find exactly the strongest power sources, and you find them not too far away from where you are. You actually cut in pretty close to where the CK90s are. And you know that you need to be able to cut loose the housing and the reactors to be able to basically have them be functional and be worth as much money as possible. So you sort of chart a course, and you find that if you just continue moving through the innards, and then eventually you cut through into the hangar, and then you can make your way to the CK90s near the top.
All right, what do you guys think? We better just split into 2 teams, tackle each the housing and the reactor, or just go full bore into one of them and hope for the best?
We got to get them both.
Got to
If
get
we-
him.
You go.
I was gonna say we got to get them both, but we want to make sure we get at least one. So if we did one at a time, we can at least guarantee that we get one out.
I'm talking about the. Good.
If we take a look at the first one, I can show you how to do it so we don't break anything. And once we've done that, the next second will be quicker.
Sounds good.
All right, well, let's see if we can get this react. Yeah, let's go for the housing. The housing will really reveal the true nature of what our task is here.
So you begin moving through the bowels of the ship and sort of start seeing the signs of the destruction of this ship. You pass by and you begin seeing bodies floating as you're getting into sort of more habitable parts of the ship. Obviously, the ship is no longer sealed, no longer pressurized, and a lot of these sort of bodies just floating through, just asphyxiated, died quickly as soon as the air went out and the vacuum was let in. You see a few sort of destroyed mechs too, mostly labor mechs, very similar to the beetles that crawl around your ship and sort of maintain everything. But eventually you come upon a mech that is actually a combat mech, a neo-combat mech. Really nice armor. It's carrying a shield emblazoned with the sigil of the Dominion. At one point it was probably carrying a beam rifle or a sword, but it has these really distinct holes punctured through it. These sort of like, they're not really bullet holes so much as they look like almost like a welding beam was pressed against it and just stayed there for a really long time and just cut really clean through it. It's almost molten on each of the holes. And you see that a few of the holes are right through the cockpit and the pilot's clearly dead inside. It's sort of like just drifting completely motionless in your path.
Damn, what happened here?
It's a nice shield. I'm going to move in that direction and try and pull the shield off the mech.
You get it.
See if you can take anything else of value off of it. Dominion pays out the ass for these sons of bitches. Can only imagine they're reeling at the price tag of this son of a bitch floating through space.
This is good tech. I know he's looking up at it like, I wish I could take this mech with me. But we got to get the cannons. We got to get the cannons. He tells himself over and over again. But he's going to pry the shield for sure. And make a note to come back to this if we have time.
Why don't you give me a D6 roll, Lloyd? Tell me what you get.
A6.
Awesome. Roll a D12 twice and tell me what you get.
Oh my goodness. A D12.
Yeah.
The best dice.
It is the best dice. I agree.
A 1 and a 4.
A 1 and a 4. Okay. You note that this mech is a specific model. It's a frontline mech that has a it basically has a way to sort of like bunker down and create plating in front of it to essentially create a wall of steel in front of it. This mech has a barricade mode mod attached to it. If you would like to salvage that, I will allow you to.
Yes, a million times yes. That's unbelievable. Yes.
Yep. So you get 1 scrap, and I'll tell you what scrap does in a second, and then you get the barricade mode module off of this thing.
The gods. Yeah. He is over the moon. He's looking through it and he's trying to figure out what it is, and then he pulls it out. He takes a moment and sits back in his chair and lights the end of another cigarette or a cigar, whatever is handy, in sort of victory.
Awesome.
Will you hurry up, Kraken? This place gives me the creeps.
What? And there's just like nonstop. He can hear you. He just pretends like he doesn't when he doesn't want to listen.
There's a sort of as you continue moving, there's sort of this distinct sort of as the ship sort of shifts and settles. You feel the bulkheads kind of straining as this piece of wreckage continues hurtling through space. You move through these corridors, which are big enough for mechs. They're designed for mechs to move through. You find a few more sort of wrecked labor mechs, more bodies floating around, more of these strange molten holes punched through the walls, through the mechs. And eventually you find your way to this long hallway leading to the hangar. You know that the hangar is just on the other side of this hallway. There are particle walls sort of phasing in and out in this hallway. And you know that they're designed to close off hull breaches. If anything, a hull breach happens, these particle walls come up and basically protect the parts of the ship that are still pressurized. These are clearly malfunctioning, clicking on and off every few sort of 10, 20 meters. And they're just sort of
Dang, looks like these guys got hit hard. They had to activate these. Can we see if we can shut them down and get through?
Would my impression be that if we shut down these, that it would just be to the vacuum and we'd just be sucked out?
You don't think, because they're just flickering on and off, all the air's already been pulled out. It's already open to the vacuum. So if you manage to sort of turn them off, you don't think it'll create any problems.
Is this kind of like a just situation where we gotta hop through these and it's not that big a deal, or is this like if you get caught in one of these, you're cut in half?
They would be pretty damaging to the mechs. They wouldn't slice through by any means, but they're made of energy, so they would definitely hurt if they flicked on while you were walking through. You could time it pretty easily if you just kind of walked through, or you could take the time to sort of hack into whatever system is nearby and try and disable them if you can.
If we get hit by the energy commander and they knock out our life support for even a couple of seconds, we're floating.
I don't suppose that energy will be very good for anything we try and haul back through this way either. All right. And kind of the welding beam arm is kind of distending into a few extra kind of appendages here. Very crab-like, similar to Clank. And they are just going to kind of poke at whatever kind of energy conduit that I can get into and see if I can just kind of hold my tongue to the battery, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead and give me a system test at disadvantage. These things are pretty messed up. It's going to be tough to decide or figure out how to turn them off.
I got a 1 and a 6.
Damn,
over
man.
16.
Some nice rolls. So you take a few seconds and manage to find exactly the panel of the wall that you need to pry off, and you find the circuitry underneath that is very clearly connected to these walls. It'll take you a couple minutes to disable them, but you think you can do it without too much issue.
So as these not tentacles, these crab-like appendages kind of pierce into the circuitry, you see that my reactor kind of what's the word I'm looking for? The casing kind of expands a little, allowing the reactor itself to rotate, and you see it kind of whir a little bit more to life, and it glows as I'm sitting here draining the battery and trying to cast off the energy as easily as possible. Stay on your toes. I'm sure whatever is coming, if anything, they'll hit us while I'm not paying attention. So,
as if to be the sort of prophesizer of the fire team, as you're saying that, I need mobility checks from everybody.
One.
I got a 2.
9 over 10.
see it too late. Something kind of floats down the hallway. And as it kind of rotates, you see a little blinking light on it. Beep, 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 beep. It goes off. Anyone who failed their test take 5 damage as a frag grenade goes off in the center of the fire team.
Did anyone but me fail?
I believe you were the only one.
Okay, that's fine. Because I can also protect you guys with my big mech if somebody was squishy. Okay, yeah, so there's a poof, and just like, and like the music is cut out. And this is the worst part about being shot at, is that the tape player like skips a couple times, and he has to like afterwards like take it out and like take a pencil and like try and then put it back in.
Damn thing's supposed to be skip proof. Come on. And immediately following that frag grenade going off, gunfire erupts down the hallway, and you all see several mechs sort of at the end of this hallway, sort of putting bursts of fire down the hallway through the particle walls. Let's roll for initiative. So system or mobility, if you succeed, you get to go before the bad guys. If you fail, you go after.
I matched mine, so I'm going after. Which, I mean, makes sense. So I'm attached to the wall.
That is very true.
So I rolled a 1 on that. Does that do anything special?
It means you super go before the bad guys.
So I believe it is Midnight and Kraken first, and then me and Mammoth bringing up the end.
All right, perfect. So, Viper, since she rolled a 1, I'll let you go first. So, you're not sure exactly how many mechs are at the end of this hallway, but you see Neo colors on their shields, and they're sort of on their shields. They have these little sort of submachine guns, and they're just sending these 3-round bursts down the hallway, sort of popping out from cover, fire, and then duck behind cover. So it's hard to tell exactly how many there are. They're currently at a far distance to you.
Shit, guys, it's the Neo scum. There's at least, I don't know, I can't count, but a half dozen or so down the corridor. How these welding torches that we've got, the welding, what are they called? Sorry,
yeah, the welding beams. Yeah. They're no good at far distance. You got to be close or near in order to hit anything with them. They basically they have a point where they just kind of fall off. All the power is concentrated right at the barrel, so you can cut through really thick steel, but basically they just plink off of anything farther away than near.
So I imagine Viper then is going to take up a position maybe a little bit off to the side of the corridor, and she's going to activate her cloaking field and hide.
Cool. Right on. Go ahead and give me a reactor roll for your cloaking field there.
Well, I rolled a 6.
Awesome. You're good. Okay, cool. So you move, use your cloaking field. What does that look like, your cloaking field? I imagine it's not super advanced or anything like that.
Yeah, no, it's so as she's moving, her mech starts to kind of like hum a little bit and starts to shimmer, and it's almost like it was blurry. Like you're looking at it and it's just kind of not there, not there. But then as soon as she kind of stops in place, she disappears.
Awesome. I love it. All right. That was Viper. So I think Kraken is up next. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna begin. Like there's a weird noise. It's not the usual boom boom from a mech because you got the 4 legs running in that direction. And then I'm going to use my energy shield. I roll a reactor die. That's a 5, so that's good to protect myself, so I can remove 1d4 damage from one attack before the start of my next turn.
Okay, cool. Which direction are you moving down the corridor?
Towards them. Yep.
Okay, cool. So the particle fields are still on, so give me a mobility test. See if you can time it so you don't get stuck in the particle field.
Success. Yep.
Cool. So you manage to, you hear one close right behind you, and so you manage to cut through. So you are now at near distance from them, and your energy field is, or your energy shield is activated. They're sort of sending 3-round bursts down the hallway. So from Kraken, from Widower, and Mammoth, I will need mobility tests from all of you as more gunfire sort of comes down the hallway. Anyone who fails, you can take 4 damage. And remember, you can burn armor to negate damage.
You're going to see 2 huge chunks of metal, rusted metal, fling off of Crimson Mammoth. I'll use 2 armor points.
And bullets sort of bounce into your energy shield. Kraken sort of... You just see it like ripple out from the shield as these bullets sort of rip into it. All right, Widower.
God damn it, Crimson! You're supposed to stay behind Kraken. And as am I still messing with this particle wall?
Yeah. So I was gonna say, if you want to try and disable the particle shield, is going to take 2 more system tests to do it.
Okay. Well, rather than move, because like we kind of expressed, I'm attached to this wall. I'm gonna spend my first action to try and do this systems test.
Yep.
This is still at disadvantage.
Advantage now because you managed to find it. So now it's just 2 regular system tests.
All right, a 6/16, so a success.
Okay, so you got one of the lines cut. It'll just take 1 more to get those fields to go down completely. And
you see, like, as this kind of crab-like pincer pokes and cuts through one of the lines, and it's kind of like a sharp flash. It kind of recoils real hard, and you actually see that it connects with the energy field of Crimson Mammoth. And I'm going to use my reinforce action, because I imagine, Mammoth, you are still closer near to me. And if you get attacked, you can choose to roll and subtract the number rolled from a single attack roll against you. And I would roll a reactor die now.
What do I roll to?
So basically, you get a D6 that you can anytime you can choose to roll that D6 and subtract the number on the D6 from any test that you're making, mobility to dodge, power to hit, anything like that. It's basically a reverse bardic inspiration die.
So this kind of leftover energy that I'm siphoning out, I transferred some of that to you. All right, give them hell. And if you can, get a gun or 2.
Well, thanks for the jolt, boss. I think I will try to move behind the giant linebacker that is Kraken.
Yeah.
And just wait for my opening.
Perfect. Yeah, you move up behind him, and you see one of the mechs sort of pop out to take a 3-round burst down the hallway. If you want to shoot, you can.
Yeah, definitely.
So go ahead and attack with that welding beam. So that's just a power test to fire it.
1, which is a crit.
That is a crit. Yep. So go ahead and roll your damage and then double it.
Nice. Oh, unfortunately, also a 1, so 2.
2 whole damage. So you sort of time it perfectly. This Neo mech sort of steps out, submachine gun over the shield. It lowers the shield just a little bit to sort of fire this submachine gun, and then you sort of fire with this welding beam, and it hits this thing square in the head, and it sort of staggers back, shakes its head, and then resumes its sort of stance, ducking into cover. So you do a pretty good amount of damage, but yeah, still standing. Okay, so that guy has 2 damage. All right, cool. Okay, we're back up at the top of the initiative. Viper. So you see Kraken moving down the hallway, energy shield up in front of him. Mammoth is sort of moved up behind him and is sort of like popping off shots with this welding beam over Kraken's shoulder. and it looks like Galvin Widower is still working on that conduit in the wall to try and shut down these particle walls. Oh, Mammoth, I need a mobility test from you too to make sure you don't get any damage from the particle walls since they're still up.
Yeah. That is 20.
Oh man. All right. So that's a D4. All right. So I rolled a 3, and because you crit failed, it's going to be double damage. So 6 damage as one of these particle walls closes right on you. You feel this energy sort of course through your mech, and you're sort of staggered back into the wall, and then the particle wall immediately shuts off as quickly as it shut on.
Yeah, and you just see smoke erupting from me, alarms blaring. I'm looking in pretty bad shape, and I'll also take 2 more armor points.
He's close to me right now, or
He
could I
is-
absorb that?
You can, yes. If you wanted to, yeah. I will let you do that.
Certainly, yeah. So like the energy shield will like flicker in that direction and absorb some of the pulse from it. And like Kraken is like shaking his head, like it's clear. It's just, I mean, he's just like got this like complicated thing in his head of how the shields are moving, and he's like, "How did you not figure this out?"
It's 4, 3, 2, 3, 1, 4. It's not that difficult.
Never thought there'd be sparks between us, Kraken.
I'm about to take that auxiliary die away from you with those jokes. All right, Viper, it is your turn.
Yeah, so Viper is kind of watching Galvin's back at this point to make sure he can finish what he's doing, because he's kind of busy and not being able to pay attention with what's going on. So she's kind of just going to stay where she's at. If anything comes close within the near range, then she'll shoot. Otherwise, she's just going to stay hidden at this point.
Okay, cool. You can choose to
covering
go
down.
after him if you want. So if something happens after, you can go ahead and take your turn.
Okay, that would be lovely.
Cool. Yep. All right, so you're going to hold. So it is now Kraken's turn.
Okay. I moved, so am I now?
You are in range. Yeah, you are near to these guys now.
Okay. Then I will try and weld one of them, and
Yeah.
I will. Let's see. Oh, that's good. 7. So that's success.
Yep.
And I got D6. So 4 damage.
4 damage. That is if you are you aim at the same guy that popped out before. You see the little score mark on his head from the welding beam before. That is enough to take him out. So go ahead and describe what that looks like.
Excellent. Yeah, the targeting systems on Kraken's mech are like better than the other ones. He's not a good shot, but the computer does all the work for him. And so it like zooms in on this weak point, and he just like types a bunch of coordinates in, and then there's a and he like gives a satisfied nod. And then I'm going to use my energy shield on Crimson Mammoth. So I got to roll my reactor. Success.
Awesome. So Crimson now has a energy shield as well. Very cool. Yeah, and the mech you take out just sort of, and it's maglocked to the floor, so it just kind of like hangs there, sort of drifting in the vacuum, still connected to the floor. All right, bad guys. All right, I need mobility tests from Kraken and from basically everyone except Viper. She's hidden. Anyone who fails, 3 damage from the submachine gun fire from these neomechs. All right. One of the neomechs sort of steps into the hallway. You see it sort of drop its submachine gun empty out of bullets, and it reaches behind the shield and pulls out this sort of axe, and you see the edge of the axe go as it lights with energy, and it begins sort of coming down the hallway, shield up, axe sort of held over the shield. All right. Widower, you are up.
Kraken, you big son of a bitch. I'm getting hit back here. I am trying to frantically finish this particle wall job.
All right.
9/16.
You do it. There's a... and all the particle fields that are sort of flickering on and off, like, do it one more time and then just, like, fizzle and fade as all of the particle fields go down.
And as this kind of secondary, flash bang takes place as we shut down this wall, I use this momentum that kind of flicks me around in the vacuum, kind of dancing on one of my mag boots, and I use that to throw myself farther down. I'm going to use just a movement to move closer to the enemy.
All right. You come up behind Mammoth and Kraken. You are now at near distance away, and you too see that Neomech coming down the hallway with the shield out, axe up. Okay, so Viper, Galvin Widower just went, so if you want to take a turn, you can. You see that he's done with his with the particle field, and he is now moving down the corridor with the others.
Yeah, absolutely. Viper would start heading down that corridor as well. So Galvin, you might see like this kind of a shimmer of the space beside you. You know what it is because you kind of used to this with you. But she's going to move up behind Kraken, and I guess that will put her within range, and she will attack that mech that's coming down the corridor.
Cool. And I believe I did write this game, but I'm making sure.
Advantage.
Yeah, as a scout, you get advantage because you're hidden.
Well, and that was very necessary. So that is a success.
Great. Go ahead and give me some damage.
So I get an additional damage die too, don't I? Because I was hidden.
Yeah.
Ambush. Yeah.
I'm glad Lloyd is playing because I think he knows Mecha Hack better than
I wrote this game.
So that'll be 6 points.
Oh man, that's enough to take him out right out. Go ahead and describe what that looks like.
So I imagine what the rest of you see is this kind of shimmer all of a sudden becomes Viper again as she, the cloaking field dissipates. And she's got her welding torch leveled out, and the beam goes straight from there and straight towards the other mech down the hall who wasn't expecting it, and it catches him right above his shield, right in the vulnerable spot, probably in the upper portion of like where the pilot is sitting, and just kind of right through.
Yeah, you sort of get him like near the top of his chest, like in what would be the mech's sort of neck, and there's kind of this small sort of explosion as you hit something vital. And just like the other one, it's still maglocked to the deck, and it just sort of starts drifting, and you see the mech's hand sort of slacks, and it lets go of this axe that sort of just drifts in the vacuum. All right, that brings us to Mammoth.
Mammoth is just after getting hit a few times, she's just gonna get totally hyped about that awesome shot that Viper just succeeded. She's gonna just keep railing on how incredible of a shot that was. Can you believe that she came out of nowhere? She was in, just boom, goodbye, good night, and just keep talking her up and trying to encourage her as much as she can so that she gets advantage on a single test made for my next turn. Awesome. Using inspiring speech.
Quipsters. Data best. All right, that's one action. What do you want to do for your second?
Can I see any of the soldiers?
Yeah, there are at least 2 left that keep popping out and
yeah, and they're far still, correct?
You're actually near to them since you moved down the corridor.
If I'm near for them, then I want to try and time it, because now I'm hyped from that awesome shot. I want to try to time it when they pop over, and I want to be charging them so that I hit them right when they pop out.
Okay, awesome. Yeah,
So
I'll let you do that.
right.
I forgot you were a brawler. Yeah.
So I'm just like kind of hopping up and down on Kraken's back, just yelling at Viper, and then I'm just gonna launch off and try to barrel straight for this guy.
Awesome. Yeah, give me an attack.
Oh man, 19. I am too hyped.
Yeah. You come charging, and because of the low gravity, you sort of misjudge, and as you come hurtling down this corridor, one of the Neomechs just kind of catches you on its shield and just sort of like throws you into the wall, not doing any damage, but just sort of negating your attack completely. And it sort of like levels the submachine gun at you and prepares to just lay into you with this gun.
Great.
You do have inspiration.
Yeah, you got that D6, and
Yeah, I rolled a 19. I don't know if I had.
Oh yeah,
That's fair.
that's a tough one. All right, we are back up at the top of the initiative. Viper, you are up, and you also have advantage on a test because you got an inspiring speech from your Quipster teammate.
Perfect. She will level her welding torch at the guy who just knocked Crimson from the path.
Perfect.
Oh, an advantage. Oh, that will be a 1.
God damn. All right.
You're
Roll some
fighting
damage
today.
and double it.
Okay. And I rolled 2 5s on my dice. So that is 10. So doubled is 20. This thing explodes.
I think you hit it right in the reactor. There's nothing left of this mech. It's just like it just like almost implodes on itself. There's just shrapnel left.
God damn it! Can we keep them in one piece? We're going to take them home.
Booyah! I think with that, she's going to use action, going to recloak.
Recloak. All right, reactor
Yeah.
roll to make sure you don't overheat.
I got a 2, so that means I
So it
Go down
downgrades.
one.
So you see a little woot 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 warning on your HUD as your reactor you feel it kind of shaking and humming beneath you, and there's like an intense heat sort of coming up into the cockpit of your mech.
I think I got a little bit too close to that blast too.
Yeah. All right. Well, and you're dealing enough damage with a welding torch to completely obliterate a mech, so you're maybe pushing it a little too far. Maybe I should lay off the trigger on this thing. All right, who's up next? I keep losing the chat window. It is Kraken.
Okay, I'm going to move forward again.
Yep, you can. If you do so, you'll be at close range with this guy. There's one left.
There's only one left. I actually won't move forward. I'm just going to try and zap him with my welding beam.
Okay.
12 is good.
Yep.
3 damage.
Okay. It's not enough to take him out, but you score a pretty good hit on him. He staggers backwards.
And I'm going to shield Mammoth again.
Okay.
Because he seems determined, and my success on my reactor seems determined to die, so I'm just going to keep spamming my shield in his direction and hope that it'll save him.
Perfect. And that's good because the remaining Neo mech trained his SMG on Mammoth and is going to take a shot. So Mammoth, I need a mobility test from you.
Haha! Success.
So you manage to roll out of the way, or your armor eats all these bullets. Basically, it fires a burst at you, but you manage to negate the damage. Okay.
That don't hurt.
Oh, that's okay, Karen. Even 10 damage is enough to take this guy out. So you didn't obliterate him quite as much, but you did take him out in one shot. So, all right. So second half of the initiative. So Widower, you're up.
Kraken, go ahead and finish him off before he kills Crimson. I'm gonna use my battle tactics to allow you to make a attack.
Awesome.
I somehow believe that it would be a lot easier for you to attack him than me.
When I play this game, I get like I rolled a 1, and every time I'm like, God, oh wait, yes. You know?
It's a good thing we're not playing D&D because
you guys are rolling really low,
so
and there's
dead.
been a lot of
We'd be
ones.
We'd be so dead.
Yeah.
My first one. That's going to be 11 damage. So
It just completely, yeah. What does it look like?
I guess he like moves forward and like it's going to use one of his big sort of like grappling arms to like hold onto the shoulder and just like slice into the like sort of precision wise into the cockpit and kill the pilot with the welding beam.
Awesome.
And then like pull it out, turn it off.
Gnarly. So
God damn, Kraken.
The battle.
Every time we destroy one of these things, it's less money we take home.
That's true. This dude
You're
plays
right.
BattleTech. He's like, aim for the legs.
Yeah, man.
Good call. Let's see what we can salvage.
Yeah, so all 4 of these were carrying shields, SMGs, and plasma axes. The SMGs and the plasma axes are both light weapons. The shields, self-explanatory. A couple of them appear to have more, though. So whoever wants to salvage, I need D6 rolls from 2 of you.
Singa feels pretty deflated by her performance in this battle and will relinquish the gear to you guys for sure.
I rolled it already, and I got like the best possible situation, so you guys should do it.
All right, Viper.
I'll totally roll. Yeah. So D6, you said?
Yep, D6.
I rolled a 1.
Okay,
That's so
give
exciting.
me 1 roll of a D12, please.
A 9.
One of these guys on the back, sort of maglock to his back, has a weapon unlike anything you've ever seen. It is seamless. There are no panels, there are no bolts, there are no rivets. It is this pristine white weapon, a beam rifle, the likes of which you have never seen before. Beam weaponry is rare and is expensive, but you have never seen anything like this before. It is, in a word, alien.
Sweet. She will definitely keep that, put it in the attach it to, the mech suit somewhere. When we have a little bit more time, we'll look at it.
Yeah, and that is a heavy ranged weapon, just FYI. And then who else is rolling?
Galvin is.
All right.
On a D6, I rolled a 4.
A 4? Okay, give me 1 roll of a D12.
Okay. A 5.
5. One of these mechs, there's something strange about the plating. As you sort of look at it, it's like a different color. It looks like a different kind of metal. And as you inspect it, you see that it is some kind of defensive measure where it can deal damage to anything that does damage to it at close range. This mech has exothermic plating.
So you see like this arm that has been used in a very utilitarian way, and it kind of grabs hold of wherever this plating is, and like the beam ignites, kind of burning whatever mech chassis beneath it as these arms kind of scrape off the plating and attach them to my own mech.
Cool. And these are the modules you guys can equip with a short rest. You just need time to be able to install it in your mech, basically.
Viper will hand off this pristine white beam rifle to Crimson Mammoth, thinking that she could probably use it better than Viper Kid.
Aw, shucks. Thanks, Cat.
Well, it's your inspiring words that helped get us through the day here.
It's your inspiring head explosion.
I think it's also safe to say that we all picked up the SMGs and axes.
Yes, you guys can each get one of those. Yeah, both of them are light weapons, and yeah, the shields as well. Yeah, I just noticed that we dropped a few frames, so I adjusted my bitrate. Sorry, everyone, if there was a little stutter in the stream. Should be good now. Yeah, and these Neo mechs, they're not anything special. These guys are what's called squires. They're basically hoping to be Neo Knights, but they're not quite there yet. So they're really basic gear. Their mechs are nice. They're Neo mechs, but they're nothing like the knights that pilot these mechs. All right, the end of the corridor opens up into a large hangar, which you know is the only thing between you and the CK-90 cannons. This seems like a good spot to take a quick break so people can go use the bathroom, get something to drink. So we will be back here shortly. We'll do 5 minutes and then come back, and I'll go ahead and mute the mics and switch this over to the splash screen. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll be right back. Mute. All right, we are back. Hello, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us. We're gonna get back into some Mecha Hack, which is what I call it now, apparently. So you move into this gigantic hangar. It's probably about 4 times the size of the hangar aboard the Gyre. And you know that it's like one of probably a dozen hangars that were on this ship before it blew apart into 1,000 tiny pieces mid FTL jump. There are kind of bits and pieces of things scattered about, but the biggest takeaway as you enter this hangar is that this was the site of some sort of battle. There are scorch marks and these like molten blast holes, which now that you've picked up this beam weapon and have inspected it, you think that this might be the kind of weapon that made those bullet holes that you've been seeing on the mechs everywhere. Downed mechs, blown up freighters, drop ships, crashed interceptors, just smoldering heaps of wreckage now. And as you move through the hangar, kind of looking at all of this, you see in the center of the hangar, pierced by 3 or 4 Neo longswords, is a mech, you think. It's hard to tell from this distance. It is unlike anything any of you have ever seen before. What would you like to do?
Call me crazy, but something tells me we need to take that.
Yeah, like what I want to do is spend several minutes appraising its value. But what I should do is get ready to fight it, I think.
Yeah, you said it's pierced. Is this thing immobile?
It appears to be immobile, yeah. And there's like 3 or 4 swords just sticking out of it, sort of pinning it to the deck of the hangar. And you see, like, as you get closer, you see that the sort of like the configuration that all of these mechs and wreckage are kind of laying in the hangar and like drifting around, it's sort of like in a circle around this thing, almost like everyone was fighting this thing.
Does it look sort of alien-like the way the beam weapon does?
Mm-hmm.
He's just like rubbing his hands and like seeing dollar signs all over it. And he's just going to like recklessly move towards it. That's what he's going to do.
Galvin is still surveying the field here, but Kraken, what's the estimated damage output of a CK-90 cruiser killer?
He'll like
Matt,
rattle off.
Matt, what's the damage capabilities of this gun we're going for?
It's a lot. It's these things are normally stationed on planets to knock cruisers out of the sky.
Well, I do understand the value and what we're sent here to retrieve, but it seems that something that can bring down a Neo Dominion dreadnought of this size, we need to take that.
Maybe we can get all three. He'll like swivel his head around to see if we can see the guns in here.
You don't see the guns, but you know that they are just up one level from where you are. As you're kind of discussing and moving towards this mech, there's a ping from the Condor, and on all of your HUDs, a little window opens up, and you see Clank's face sort of looking in the camera, and he says, I don't mean to alarm anyone, but I'm getting some strange readings from the reactor in that wreckage you're all climbing through. Well, here. And he kind of like sends you some readings, and you see that the energy in the reactor sort of spiking wildly. Some tells me something's up with the reactor, and I don't think it's going to last much longer.
Commander, I would say that we send someone back with this thing, and the rest of us go get the guns.
For once, I agree with him, sir.
What?
Noted. All right, Viper, Mammoth. I ain't gonna make you draw straws. Grab that thing and go. Whoever stays, come with me and Kraken.
Commander. And he realizes he does this a lot, and you know that he does this a lot, which is like, edit your orders. Viper can cloak.
What would I do without you?
You'd be long dead, sir.
Fair enough. All right. Viper, take this thing and go.
Yes, boss. Do that right now. Does this look like something that I could actually handle on my own, like in my mech?
Thankfully, in the low to no gravity, you can sort of lift it up and just kind of push it in front of you to basically float it out of the here. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
It would be difficult if you were in any sort of gravity, but because this is as you get closer to it, and Kraken, you would see this as well since you moved up to it. It's very clearly a mech of some design, though unlike anything you've ever seen. Most mechs are sort of humanoid in shape. This is more insectoid looking. It has legs and arms, but it has a lot more than it should, and it doesn't really have a torso. It has more of like a thorax, and there are sort of these like almost like tentacly sort of appendages sort of trailing off of it, and they're sort of twitching on the floor and leaking this weird almost luminescent blue fluid onto the deck. It's like floating in the zero gravity. Like I said, 3 or 4 swords piercing this thing. It looks like it took an entire legion of mecha to take it down. And it's about twice the size of your mechs, probably half again as big as Kraken.
Double back. We'll need you.
As soon as I've got this secured, I'll be on my way back.
So you pull the swords out of this thing. It twitches as you do, and you sort of lift it up and begin pushing it out. You could do so without too much trouble, though it will take some time. The other 3 of you are going to continue up into the bays for the cannons. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So you, the quickest way would, and Kraken, you likely know this, would be to disable your mag locks, drift up to the ceiling, and then cut your way through into the bays for the cannons.
As we are floating up, can I use an action to reinforce Kraken as well?
Yeah, you absolutely can. Make sure you give me
So
a
you
reactor
also
roll.
have a D6. Yes, sir. 3.
Very nice. That was close. You float up to the ceiling of this hangar. Using your welding beams, you're able to cut through. This is an inner wall, so it's a lot quicker than cutting through the outer hull. And you find yourselves in a gigantic sort of engineering bay of sorts. There are just sort of like these massive pylons sort of holding everything up, and there are just cables everywhere, just webs of cables, maybe thousands of different cables hanging down from what you know, Kraken, are the housing for these CK-90s, which are just right above you. There are these 2 sort of massive cylindrical glowing reactors under each of these cannons, which are going to take a little bit of work to cut free. As the 3 of you are inspecting this, Viper, you're heading back to the Condor with this mech in tow. I'm going to need you to give me a presence test, please.
We are all doomed. Oh, I rolled a 2. Yay.
As you're pushing this thing, you get some kind of strange sort of sounds over your comms. And there's like weird flickering sort of images over your HUD, and you kind of like bang on your helmet, and the feedback kind of clears up. Just kind of shake it off. Must have been nothing. And you continue pushing it out of the ship. All right, so the other 3, you are looking at the massive housing compartment for these 2 essentially orbital cannons. Kraken, I don't know if you've ever salvaged these cannons before. If you did, you wouldn't be here doing this sort of drudge work. But you're at least familiar enough with similar sort of armament that you know your way around it. How do you want to go about doing this?
So I think we have to do the reactors first, because if we try and move things and they're still plugged in, so to speak, like we might just double nuke ourselves and die.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first task, and so he'll like move towards one of the reactors carefully and inspect it and try and see like what the best way to shut it down without like pulling the plug is.
So you can probably interface with the system and disable them basically using your system.
Man, this system is really paying out success. It's really paying out. Like maxed it, and I was like, "Is this a good call?" Like, yes, it absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of system rolls happening. So you're able to get into the system and shut down one of the reactors. It sort of, and the glow sort of goes away, and you know that the left cannon is now free to cut away from the ship.
Okay, that seems like a job the others can do without damaging the thing. So I'll inform them like, okay, here, and I'll put it up on a hood or whatever, an overlay. Like, cut these places very, very carefully. Don't cut more than like 3 feet or whatever, and then I'll go to the other reactor and try and shut it down.
Cool. All right, so from Galvin and from Crimson Mammoth, I'll need power tests as you cut through these pylons to free the cannons. And if you're going to shut down the other reactor, Kraken, I'll need another system test from you.
Pass for me.
Okay. Let me do a roll here.
4/10.
Over the comms, Clank says, "Hey, how's it going down there? Reactor's not looking great."
We're working on it, Clank.
Viper, you emerge from the dreadnought wreckage, pushing the alien chassis in front of you. Clank sort of comes over the comm. The hell is that?
This Clank, this is the mother load. I don't know what the hell this thing is, but it's got some dollars chinging all over it. So help me get this in. Help me get it secured so I can help go back and get what we came here for.
You're lucky we have room for one more chassis in the mech bay. All right, I'll make a space for it. he basically tells you to leave it, and he'll get it loaded up into the cruiser.
Thanks, Clank. What would we do without you?
You'd probably be dead, he says, echoing what Kraken said earlier.
You have been hanging out with Kraken so long. And she would turn and hustle back to where she left the group.
Cool. As you guys are working on the other reactor and you're cutting through the pylons, I need everyone to give me a presence test, please. The three of you, not Viper.
Fail for me.
11 over 15. This is my good stat.
Yeah.
Cool as a cucumber.
So the two of you, you're cutting through the pylons. You're just sort of doing manual labor. That's very similar to other salvage jobs. Takes a lot of time. It's boring. But Kraken, you're interfaced with the ship's computer. And you're kind of working through these lines of code, looking for the sort of like auto disable for these reactors, the fail safes where you can shut them down without taking too much time, taking too much effort. And the code on your screen kind of fizzles. You start getting some weird feedback in the comms. They almost sound like voices kind of muffled coming through water almost. The music in your cockpit kind of slows. The voices kind of take on this discordant kind of deeper octave sound, and then the music starts playing backwards. The words playing backwards.
What the fuck?
And there's images flashing on the screen. Surveillance footage of what happened in the hangar. You see labor mechs loading things into freighters, neomechs walking by on patrol. Then there's an explosion. Something rockets into the hangar. The mech. The alien mech. Tentacles are just out everywhere, grabbing mechs, slamming them against the wall. Beam weapons fire out in a line. Just tossing mechs like ragdolls, picking up a freighter and slamming it into a line of Legion, these mechs that come out to try and defend it. Explosions everywhere. And then the image is cut out. You see a face on the screen where there would normally be one of your teammates on the comms. It's human-ish, but it's blue, it's spectral, composed of light. And it says, "We have returned to take what is rightfully ours." Cuts out. The music begins playing normally again.
He like shakes his head as Freebird starts playing again, and he's like, he like looks down at the cigar and thinks like maybe it's something that he's been smoking or like some sort of like coolant in his drink or something. He like doesn't really know how to process it. And then a second later, he's like, Viper, shoot that thing in the heart. Shoot it 100 times in the heart. It's not dead. Shoot it.
As soon as I hear that over the comm, I stop in my tracks and I think she just immediately would believe Kraken, and she would turn back and run towards the Condor.
You run back towards the Condor, emerging from the hole that you cut into the Eclipse, and you see that there's these grapple cables that are pulling the mech into the innards of the Condor, and you see Clank is sort of standing on the outside of the ship, mag locked to it, and he's just watching, making sure that it gets in okay, and he sees you coming. What's up?
Clank, stop. Don't pull it in yet.
Why not?
It's not dead.
It's not. And there's... It sort of powers up, and these sort of blue lights sort of flare to life in the mech chassis. I need a mobility test from you, please, Viper.
Oh, that's just a success. I got an 11 under my 12.
You just sort of duck and roll out of the way as a sort of like, you guys ever been to a laser show where there's just like lasers that sort of are a level sort of field of like hundreds of lasers? That just fans out from this thing, just, and it just like cuts into the hull of the Eclipse. These explosions sort of blossom across the surface of this thing. The three of you in the cannon bay hear, and the ship kind of vibrates beneath you. And Viper, the mech, sort of rights itself and just sort of like clamps onto the deck of the ship with all of its limbs and begins like scuttling towards you.
Yeah, and you guys would hear oh fuck over the comm link. And my first action is going to be to cloak.
Good. That's a really good idea.
Am I going to roll my reactor die?
Yes, roll your reactor.
Yep. Oh, I rolled a 3. Thank goodness.
So you cloak, and as soon as you do that, the alien mech kind of stops in its scuttling and just sort of like starts scanning around looking for you, these tentacles just kind of writhing above it. Let's go ahead and roll for initiative. So we have an order here.
I failed with a 10.
Okay.
Yeah, also failed.
Okay. So, Viper, will call that your turn, your cloak, and I'm assuming move to get out of the way of this thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you say anything over the comms?
Besides the oh fuck, no.
Yeah. So you all here, you just see, Viper's face on your HUDs, just oh fuck, and just like panic in her face. Kraken, what do you do? It's your turn.
I'm gonna try and shut down the other. We need the guns, or else we failed the mission, and we will starve to death. So I'm gonna try and shut down the reactor that I'm next to.
System test.
That is still a success, just barely.
The second reactor shuts down. That cannon is now safe to cut away. The first cannon is now disconnected from the hull of the ship and is sort of free floating, ready to be towed away by grapples. What else on your turn, Kraken?
Yeah, I'll use my other action to try and cut away this cannon as well.
Okay.
One of the holdings.
Yep. Power test.
Power. Okay. 7 success. Man, dice killing me today. Great.
So you begin the process of cutting this cannon free. We'll need one more test to cut that free. Baddies. Not detecting a mech to shoot, the alien chassis turns and looks at the Condor. Condor is gonna make a so basically if you guys aren't on the ship, the Condor's stats are 10. So if you guys aren't on the ship making a test, that's basically the automated system, and Clank's abilities is just 10. So I gotta roll under 10. I just rolled a 2. So this thing turns and begins firing, and the Condor sort of disconnects from its dock and just kind of barely banks out of the way as this sort of wave of beams just kind of goes under it. Clank is like, "What the hell? I'm gonna get on the guns. There's something out here, guys." And Widower, it is your turn.
All right, I have to compose myself. So I'm going to look at Mammoth, and I'm going to look at this disconnected gun, and I'm going to hear Viper screaming at the ship, and I'm gonna tether up as one of my actions, and I'm gonna pull. I'm sure I wouldn't get like the full momentum we're going here, giving Mammoth some time on their turn, but that's what I'm going to do.
Okay, so you're going to start moving the cannon. All right. Mammoth.
Okay, so I want to basically run over and try to cut the rest of the cables for the other cannon.
Okay, give me a power test.
2.
Okay,
Success.
you cut the other pylons that need to be cut, and there's a sort of clank, this heavy thud as the cannon disconnects from its moorings and is now free to move.
Kraken, you take this. I'm gonna go and cover Cat, Viper, and so since I have the plasma rifle, so I want to just start sprinting, hopefully being able to pass the commander also.
Yep, you start moving back towards the Condor. All right, that puts us back at the top of the initiative with Viper. So, Viper, you are cloaked. You see this alien mech firing its beam weapons at the Condor as it tries to take off.
Yeah, she's going to go up behind it and I think I'm going to use the laser axe.
Okay.
Get up nice, close, and personal.
So this is a HD4 enemy, so you're going to be adding 3 to all of your rolls against it because it is 3 levels above you.
Okay. Oh, that's such a bad roll. So I'm adding 3.
Yeah.
That'll make it an 18, so that's a fail.
You come up on this thing, come out of cloak, swing with the axe, and it just like swivels unnaturally on its thorax, and this energy shield kind of come up like, and it kind of deflects the axe almost like a solid surface, just turving it away from this thing. And it sort of cocks its head, and like you see these eyes just kind of like telescopically like zoom in on you and just lock on you.
So does that consist of a move and then an attack?
Yes, so that'll be your 2 actions. Yep. All right. And yeah, Baron, to answer your question, so these things, you can basically push them out because they're essentially, the bottoms of the cannons are sort of inside the ship, but the barrels obviously poke out. So you guys can push them out of the ship and be outside of it with the cannons. All right. So that is your turn, Kraken.
Are the cannons big enough to get on? Like, could we climb on them without breaking them?
Yes, they're huge.
Oh, there's no weight space, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yep.
Okay, so then that's probably what I'll suggest is we get on the cannons, we get Condor to fly here, and then as they bring the cannons in, we get into the mech, and then somehow we push this thing into space or kill it.
Okay.
So I'll basically be shouting at Clank to fly to these coordinates right now, and then I'm going to use a move to get onto one of the cannons, and I will... What else will I do? That's it.
So you say that over the comm. Clank says, Viper's still down here. What do you want me to do?
Go. Sorry.
Clank over the comm says, Commander?
Don't make him tell you again, Clank. We need the Condor. Viper's a big girl. She can take care of herself.
You got
Clank,
it.
go. I'll be there as quick as I can.
Coming at hard burn. Be ready for me. All right.
Actually, with my other action, could I
Yeah.
try and lift or like push before I climb on so that it starts to float out?
Yeah, give me a power test.
Okay, sweet. That's a good call. That's a fail. Yep.
So
No good.
you manage to sort of shove it free, but you can't build up enough momentum to kind of like push it so it's drifting out. All right. God, I keep losing the chat window. Okay. That was Kraken. So the alien mecha sort of turns, and one of its hands sort of erupts in this. It's a sword made out of energy, and it just sort of swings this at you. I need a mobility test from you, Viper.
And I'm still adding 3 to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a fail.
Okay. 5 damage as this thing just cuts through.
Ouch. Okay.
All right. Widower.
All right, Kraken, we got to push as hard as we can. Both of these on our own. I'm going to use a battle tactics to give you a single move or attack action. And then I'm also going to take one myself to try and shove this. So,
all right, power test for both of you.
Fuck, 11 over 10. This is it. This is it.
This is the reckoning. Yep.
We sowed our own fates.
Lloyd, did you make a power test?
Yep, I succeeded this time.
Okay, cool. So you kind of like really kind of, you get these little thrusters and kind of, and you shove the cannon out, and suddenly you're free. You're out in open space. You see the wheeling starfield. You see the eclipse beneath you. You see a light distant, but you know it's the Condor flying towards you at full speed. And you also see in the far, far distance a tiny blip that has to be the gyre waiting for you to retrieve these cannons. All right. That was Widower's turn, so now it is Mammoth.
Okay, so am I able to use a movement and then be within range of Viper, Midnight, and this creature?
So they are currently distant to you. It's going to take 3 moves to get there.
3 moves to get there.
Yeah.
To get, like, adjacent to them, or to...
To get close, yeah, 3 moves. To get within range of them, just 2.
Okay. And can I move twice?
You can. You'll have to roll your reactor.
I'm gonna do it. I'm just sprinting towards my friend Viper, trying to save her.
You're a brawler, so you could move and then use your charging strike ability. You'd have to roll your reactor die twice, but you could move and then also charge and attack it if you wanted to.
Yeah, I'm just going to build up as much momentum as I can and, mammoth rush them.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. So that'll be 2 reactor rolls.
Okay.
1 for the double move and 1 for the charging strike.
3, which is a pass.
Yep.
Ooh, and then a 1.
Okay, downgrade that die. You hear your mech just kind of like creaking under the strain of this intense speed, all this power you're pushing through it.
Don't worry, Viper, I'm coming for you.
And add 3 to that power test for the attack.
Okay, that's a success.
Okay, give me some damage.
3.
Where's my D4? Almost all of your damage is negated by this thing's shield. You feel as you charge into it, there's like something slowing you down as you get to within range of it. You still bash into it and scrape it a little bit, but there's something repelling these attacks. Okay. That was Mammoth. We're back at the top of the initiative with Viper.
Yeah, so I'm right there. Clank is gone, right? With the ship, he is on his way.
Yeah, the Condor is basically around on the beyond the horizon of this ship. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to attack with the my axe while I'm right there, and then I'm probably going to book it.
Okay.
Oh, I got a 2.
That's a good roll.
Yeah. So that's just a regular hit, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to recklessly attack here, so I'm going to take 2 of my armor points, and my shield kind of goes fluctuates and dies a little bit, and I'm going to add that additional damage die.
Sounds good.
Oh, I got 10. 10 points of damage.
Very nice. Let me roll his shield. He only negates one of that. It's actually a pretty good hit. He's still standing, but you do a significant amount of damage. What does that look like?
So imagine she's with the first one that got kind of deflected away. She targets a little bit better, and she's going after those tentacles that are around, and she manages to kind of maybe cleave off a couple of them in the process.
Yeah, you kind of hew through with this axe, and a couple of these sort of writhing tentacles just sort of drift off into space, leaking this luminescent blue fluid. When you do that, there's kind of almost this shriek that fills your ears over the comms, almost like it's like a guitar feedback mixed with someone screaming, just sort of this sort of in the comms, sort of ear splitting. Okay.
And you said there is like attacks of opportunity, so
yeah,
if I tried to disengage,
if you move away from this guy while he's close to you, it'll get an attack against you. Yes.
I think what I'll try to do is I will try to I'm playing it with fire here, but I'm going to try to recloak.
Okay. Roll that reactor.
Oh, I got a 3 again. Yes.
Very lucky with the reactor rolls.
Very. Well, I'm down to a D4, so.
Yeah. Okay, so Kraken, you are sort of pushing this cannon out of the eclipse. You see the Condor sort of come in low, firing its retro thrusters to slow itself down, and the docking, the second cargo hold sort of opens up, and you hear a clank over the comms go, "Let's move, let's move!"
Can I attempt a system roll to give like a trajectory calculation so that the ship can like catch mid-flight?
Ooh, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's some expanse stuff right there.
Yeah, it super is.
That's a 4, so it's a big success.
Cool. So what does that look like as you sort of transmit this?
So he's like hanging onto this thing, and like the auto sort of mag clamps are down, and so he like sits back for a second, and he like, rather than use a computer, like take out this little piece of paper and is like scrabbling like a bunch of numbers and stuff onto it, and he's like, one, and he's like doing the real quick sort of hypermaths to figure out like exactly what speed and what angle it has to get at so that we can like put it in and like land it proper side down. He like transmits this to Clank as quick as possible.
Awesome. Yeah. Quick maths. You do that. And as Clank comes over sort of the horizon of the eclipse and fires these retro thrusters, he essentially just kind of like lands on top of the cannon, and suddenly you're inside the cargo bay of the Condor. Got one. Okay. Kraken. Okay, bad guy. Losing sight of Viper, this mech turns on Crimson Mammoth. So Mammoth, I need a mobility check as it turns on you with this beam sword.
Failure.
Okay. Oh, it's bad. It's not good. 10 damage.
Wait. Oh, shit. Never mind. Yep. Okay. Well, that's the smoking wreckage.
Okay, hold on. You have inspiration.
I know. I have it. And I should have used it before he said damage, but he said damage.
I will let you have that D6. You've been holding on to it. Like it's the Great Depression. I will let you roll that D6 if you want to.
This is worth it. I need a 4 or better on this D6 to survive this. I rolled a 1. I suck.
All right, so you're not dead, but you are disabled, and so we'll need to roll on the disabled chart, which is a thing that exists in this game. So roll a D8 for me, please.
Okay, I actually have this chart in front of me right now, anticipating. 2, you lose the use of an arm. You cannot use heavy weapons or both hands.
So...
And I'm all armed, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So this thing essentially grabs you by the throat of your mech with its tentacles, lifts you up, and just sort of hews through one of your arms, and then just sort of tosses you into space. And you kind of drift with one arm, just kind of like sparking. Anything you want to do or say over the comms, Crimson, as you sort of drift?
Mammoth down! We got a mammoth down!
Over the comms, when you say that, there's like static, and then this strange spectral sort of blue face appears on your HUD, Mammoth, and you hear this voice just say, "The one mind will judge you in death. Go now." And it sort of just like turns and drops down to all of its limbs and starts scuttling across the hull of the Eclipse towards where you know the Condor is landing. All right. So that was the bad guy's turn. Oh, what's up?
If it moves away from me, do I get an attack on it?
Yes, you do. You will decloak if you attack it. Just know that. But yes, you do get an attack against it.
Okay, I will totally take that chance as I'm screaming out Crimson.
Yeah, you did just see it like cut your friend essentially in half and toss him into space.
So now I'm adding 3. So that's a 12 under my 15, so it's a success.
Yes. Give me some damage. And you get that extra since you're cloaked, you also roll with advantage. I don't know if you rolled that second D20.
I did, yeah.
Okay, cool. And then extra D6 of damage.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go recklessly again, using up all the rest of my armor to add another die.
Oh, Mavericks.
So that's a total of 12 points.
Damn. Doing some sick damage. Let me roll its shields. It only negates 1 of that. So that's, hang on, 12, 11, 10, 20. It has... Okay. Wow, that's close. It is still standing. You do a significant amount of damage. What does that look like?
So as soon as this thing grabs Crimson and flings her out into space, Viper decloaks, and she's got this axe, and it's she's wielding way over her head, and she's screaming as she launches herself at this thing's back as it turns away from her, and she just gets a solid hit, and it goes straight into the thing's back, and kind of as her weight, well, the momentum of her fall kind of rips it down a little bit, kind of making a kind of like a rent in this thing's armor.
Yeah, you cut through, and what you see as you cut through is it's not circuitry, it's not piping, it's not gears and servos and pulleys. It's like some sort of weird organic material. As you slice through, there's like this almost like silicone flesh beneath the metal skin of this thing, and this luminescent blue fluid sprays out like blood as you hew into it with the axe and pull it free, and you see these mechanical organs pumping fluids and pulsating inside this thing. And it's sort of, again, that piercing shriek, this sort of guitar feedback scream as it sort of whirls on you with all of these limbs and appendages, its eyes blazing as it stares at you. All right. Anything else on your turn there, Viper? Oh, no, that was an opportunity attack, wasn't it? So we're back to Widower. So Widower, one of the cannons is loaded. You and Mammoth, well, you are pushing the other cannon. Mammoth left and got his arm cut off. So you're pushing the other cannon, and Clank is kind of sitting there waiting. The retro thruster's firing. He's sort of hovering there above the wreckage of the Eclipse. He's like, come on, come on!
So I'm still trying to get some thrust behind this cannon.
Yes.
So I want to... I'm dumping the reactor. Let's push it. All right. 9/10. Success.
You sort of push this into the cargo bay of the Condor, and it mag locks in. Now you and Kraken are inside the cargo hold, and the doors sort of close. Over the comms, Clank says, Commander Viper and Mammoth are still out there. Mammoth is damaged. What do we want to do?
Can we get a system lock on Mammoth's location?
Feeding it to you now. Comes up on the HUD.
Are we working on like a time limit still, like with the reactor? How does that look?
You assume so. Clank hasn't updated you, and at some time he might be keeping information from you willingly.
We can't leave him down there, Kraken.
Gotta cut our fucking losses, sir. We got the cannons.
We have the cannons. Clank. We'll give him 30 seconds.
30 seconds? You want me to fly over there or wait?
We can't risk the cargo. We can't risk the Condor.
All right. Well, while you two are sitting on your asses, maybe you want to get in the guns, just in case.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, can we use the guns to like blow a hole in this thing?
Blow a hole in the...
Yeah, like a direct line between us. Actually, no, that would probably be a bad idea. I'm out of turn. Don't listen to me. It's hard being a captain, man.
Do we know, like, where Viper and the big scary mech are?
Yeah. Yep. You have a Clank sent you their sort of location on your HUD, so you can see on your HUD you see sort of like a dotted line sort of going over the horizon of the eclipse where they are.
And do we know where Mammoth is floating?
Yeah, there's sort of like bloop, bloop, Mammoth and then bloop, bloop, Viper, and you see Mammoth is kind of just like floating away.
Oh, that's like a way worse way to go. That would be like Kraken's input is like, if we're gonna save one of them only, then we can't let Mammoth just like slowly die of no life support floating in space. At least like Viper will go quick. Yes, we're playing a mercenary game here, guys. Like we gotta be selfish and greedy.
Okay, how about? I mean, I know I don't have any more action, but we could like start to fly like the midpoint between where we're going and them, so they at least have a chance. Go scoop up Mammoth if that's doable. How long does life support last once you're...
Considering his reactor is dead, not long. He's got whatever air is in his cabin right now.
We'll see.
You guys want to play a fun robot game where you have to decide who lives and who dies?
It's the only fun way to play a robot game.
It is the only fun way to play a robot game. So, Mammoth, you're up. You're disabled, so you can spend your turn contemplating what it's going to feel like to suffocate inside your mech if you want. You can say things over the comms. Your comms are still active.
That's it for me, guys. You gotta save Viper.
Ma'am, shut
Kill
the hell
that
up.
fucking alien.
Viper, you think you can put it down?
I'm trying my darndest, sir. I've got this. I've got it running. It's hurt. It's hurt bad. I might be able to do it.
Mammoth, hold your breath.
You're supposed to exhale, sir.
Oh. That's a cool idea. You don't have actions as a mech. You technically can still do stuff as a pilot, Mammoth.
Yeah, so I'll just look around my cabin and see if I have anything like a fire extinguisher or something that maybe I can use to help propel me in some direction.
Yeah, you probably have a little fire extinguisher that you can use to put out little electrical fires and stuff that happen in your cockpit. And you are wearing a helmet, so if you want to vent the air, you would have a little bit of reserve air to be able to breathe.
Yeah, so I'll just like prepare for the eventual run out of air, but I want to kind of like time it just so I imagine there's some like evacuate button or something, so that might help project me, and then I can use the fire extinguisher to change my trajectory, hopefully when they're coming by. So I'll prepare for that.
Awesome. Okay, great. So back up at the top of the initiative. So Viper, you are going toe to toe with this alien mech. It is sort of just standing over you. Like I said, probably twice as big as you are. These tentacles just writhing. You're barely holding your own, but like you said, you feel like you're doing some significant damage. What would you like to do on your turn?
I am going to attack it one more time.
Okay.
Yes. And I am visible, so this is just normal. Oh, I rolled a 2. Yay.
Man.
She's inspired. She is going to do this. She's going to kill this thing. I'm just down to 1 dice, though. So 5 points.
5 points. Let me roll its shield. Hang on. Quick maths. How do you down this thing?
Oh, so as it turns back towards her after she's just rent its back, she kind of takes the axe and goes underhand and grabs it through the, like, aims at its lower torso part and just kind of slices upwards, getting a nice, I guess, like rent in its kind of stomach area as it just kind of falls down heavily to the ground.
Yeah, and you sort of slice through what would normally be where the cockpit is situated in a mech, and as you sort of slice through, you see that there's nothing. There's just more of these weird mechanical, somewhat organic, somewhat metal organs just spewing this luminescent blue fluid, and as you kind of cut through it, there's another one of these screeches in your comms. You almost have to take your headphones off because it's so loud as this thing falls into 2 pieces and kind of drifts apart from each other into space. There's silence for a moment over the comms, just kind of this, and the static cuts out, eerily quiet, and you hear this voice say, "I am of the one mind. There is no death for me. I am the hierophant. You will see me again." Static once again. Clank over the comm says, "Holy shit, it's dead. Just lost the signature on that alien mech. Viper did it."
Kraken will get on the all comms now and not just to Widower and be like, "We gotta go get her."
Yeah, and I think as soon as Viper, it's down. I'm going to go get Mammoth, and she's going to at least launch herself out to where Mammoth is, so that we're both in the same spot, and you guys can come and rendezvous with us.
Smart. Yeah, you sort of thrust off of the Eclipse and sort of collide with Mammoth, sort of hugging his mech, for lack of a better phrase. Oh, yeah, there are 2 pieces of the alien mech if you want to try and do that. If you
Take it. You're leaving like billions of dollars.
I mean, so Viper, if you're clutching Mammoth, Hold on to the whole thing. we need as much of that as we can salvage. And yeah, let's get Clank on. Well, actually, I'll roll a systems check to see if I can get Clank to put us in a position to get these. That was close. 15 over 16.
Yeah, Clank sort of does some quick calculations. I'm not half the pilot Viper is, but I think I can get us in position to scoop them up.
Excellent.
So the Condor sort of fires its retro thrusters and then sort of takes off towards the position where Mammoth and Viper are. And again, sort of like comes in with the retro thrusters, opens the mech hangar, and just sort of scoops them up. And so Viper and Mammoth, you two sort of slam into the ceiling of the mech hangar, sort of colliding in, and the doors sort of snap shut, and Clank sort of levels the ship out and just takes off towards where the gyre is, where you guys can get picked up. You all four are inside the Condor. You have 2 CK-90 cruiser killer cannons on board, and at least a piece of some sort of weird alien mech. You all can disembark your mechs and go up to the bridge. Clank sort of gratefully gives up control of the Condor to you, Viper. You have several minutes before you get to the gyre. Anything you guys want to talk about or do as you decompress from your experience aboard the Eclipse?
Clank, I hate to ask this, but will you make me a drink?
Yeah, I don't do that anymore. You can make it yourself.
Oh, brutal.
I'm sure there's like some sort of equivalent of like space grog. It's just like the bottom of the barrel. It's like MRI made alcohol.
Yeah, it's like you use it to strip the paint off mechs, and that's about it. Yeah,
we use it to clean the coffee pot after we've ran the coffee pot 8 times.
Yeah.
Break out the hooch. I think this is a good turn for the Condor. As the captain sits back in like his retrofitted, like this is maybe part of a leisure vessel at one point. It's kind of like a fluffy chair. Everyone else's is kind of shitty.
I should mention that the reactor in the Eclipse's aft section is going to go nuclear in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Jump.
There's a sort of explosion behind you, and the ship sort of rocks, and he goes, it's fine. We're at a safe distance. It's good. You guys got out of there in plenty of time. You're flying towards the gyre, and they come over the comms. Again, there's about a 30-second delay. You're far enough away. You hear Carvin over the comms. Good work, Condor. Looks like you're en route. Package safely aboard.
Seems this one came with a tip. Something you're probably going to want to see.
Oh, yeah?
It's easier to just show you. And I almost can picture like the 4 of us like in the hangar looking at this organic lump.
Yeah, leaking this sort of luminescent blue fluid, this strange, dimly glowing like corpse cut in half. And you see the same thing that Viper saw, where there's no cockpit, there's no sort of circuitry. It's all this weird silicone organic sort of mixture. Nothing you've ever seen before.
I have a feeling we may be the richest scavengers this side of the orbit.
Carvin comes over the comms again. Condor, we're getting some strange readings. Something. Hang on. Something's jumping right next to us. Out of the windshield, there's a bright light. Something akin to a doorway opens up in space. Sort of a perfect square. And a ship twice the size of the Gyre drifts out of this doorway. It is seamless, white, lined with glowing blue lights. Before you can even reconcile what you're seeing before you, beams lance out from this thing and slice the Gyre in half. Screams come over the comms, and there's a massive explosion as the reactor goes critical. And the ship that you've lived on for likely close to a decade, the ship you've worked on, the ship where you all met, is gone in an instant. And suddenly you all know exactly what happened to the Eclipse. As the wreckage of the Gyre spreads out from it. Something akin to fighter craft dislodge themselves from this ship and fly directly towards you. Commander, orders, says Clank.
Begin offensive maneuvers.
You want to fight these things?
We gotta get out of here, Captain.
Oh, you're muted, Baron.
Well, we
Commander,
could. I mean, we could twitch, but you said that short distance. Is there anything like reliably within distance of here that we could get to?
Short distance, but it's like, I mean, a couple 10 million
Okay,
kilometers.
okay,
So it's
okay.
pretty far.
Hit the switch, Clank. Get us the fuck out of here.
You got it. Kind of keys a few buttons, and again, there's that. And as the fighter craft sort of speeding towards you, growing bigger and bigger in the windshield, you see these beam weapons power up and begin firing at you. There's a flash of blue and you're gone as the Twitch drive activates. And that is where we will end our session for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and thank you guys for playing. That was so much fun. I had so little prepped, and it was just an incredible blast to run that game. This is my first Mecha Hack campaign, which is a crime since I wrote the game. And I couldn't have asked for 4 better players to play this. So I will toss it over to these guys to do their sign-offs, and then we'll go ahead and call it a night. So we'll start with the intrepid commander, Baron.
Okay, so I am Baron. I played Galvin Widower. Sorry. I'm testing out the auxiliary chassis for some upcoming material. I am kind of just in a shell shock, if you will, right now after this session. So certainly well done. And you can find me over at RWD Gaming, YouTube channel where I put out mostly D&D live plays, but you can also find a couple Mecha Hack games in there. So if you like this and you want it a little bit watered down, go check that out.
No, dude, Baron runs some awesome Mecha Hack games. Definitely go check them out. All right, Karen, go ahead.
Hey everyone, I'm Karen. I played Viper Midnight. We're in a whole whack of doo-doo right now. This game was awesome. This was quite the blast. I really did enjoy this. You can find me. I have a channel at called Myth and Gears, and we have a little bit of D&D live plays on there. I've done a Harbinger game, but mostly play Genesis, so you can check that on out. This has been a blast. Thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Lloyd, go ahead, man.
This is great. I like being a mercenary. Feels good. I love
This is your natural state, Lloyd.
Yeah, basically. I don't have an excuse. Yeah, this is great. You're LDM on YouTube if you want to watch me run games.
Definitely check it out. All right, Philip.
An honor to play in this game. Honor to play with these awesome players. This has been so fun. Thanks, guys. I don't have a channel, but I also like to run games on RWD Gaming's channel. So definitely head on over there.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Again, if you're interested in Mecha Hack, there are links down in the description. And I do want to mention really quick, I should have mentioned this earlier. You can see on the overlay that this was done by MTD Jake, Mini Terrain Domain, Jake Norman. He does amazing overlays and he takes commissions and he charges a criminal like under amount than he should. So if you want like really awesome affordable overlays for your streamed games, definitely go talk to him because he does a phenomenal job. Look at this panel hanging loose on this overlay, man. This overlay's falling apart, but it's awesome. So thank you everyone for watching. Definitely tune in next time. And I forgot to figure out an outro for this campaign, so I'll just say take care and happy gaming all. And giant robots are so rad.